My start. All good. And on the dot. Yeah. Testing 1 2 3 1 2 3. Good morning, good afternoon, good day Sunday. This is Hoya Locker Room, episode 66. And my normal intro is, man, we have a awesome show today, one that really hits home, really touches me in a way that hopefully the episode will demonstrate. We have Coach Mike Riley in the building today. Golf clap, golf clap, golf clap. Welcome, Coach. I'm going to start with a mini intro because we know once you get the mic, it's a wrap. But just for those who don't know, Mike Riley served as an assistant basketball coach at Georgetown University from 1983 to 2004. While at Georgetown, Riley coached the Hoyas to 6 Big East championships, 4 Big East tournament championships, 2 Final Fours, and the 1984 national championship. He also served as academic coordinator during his tenure at Georgetown. As a player, he played on Big John's first NCAA tournament bid team, 1974-75, part of the ECAC tourney championship team, 75-76, and the 1978 NIT bid. He's also number 17 in career assists. Career assists by decade, he's number 3. And had they kept steals back then, we already know. What's that?
Thank you, G.
I haven't finished yet. We already know.
For charges, too. That's a steal.
Yes, sir. That's a steal. So we already know. I probably owe him just a formal thank you because clearly Coach Thompson saw something in me that Mike Riley demonstrated his time there. So with that, Markham, if you have a few words you want to say, please chime in.
All I want to do is jump right into it with 2 words. Ice cream.
Ice cream. We have that here at UDC, ice cream.
Oh, yeah.
That's a good thing.
Yes, sir. It's a real good.
Ice cream is good to you.
Yes, sir.
What does that mean? That's the inside thing. People are wondering what was that about and why did you have that reaction?
When I was a young kid, my high school, which is Cardozo High School here, Gene knows about it. You wouldn't know, Markham, but Cardozo High School, I used to go, all the kids in the neighborhood used to go to my high school and they would come out and I'd go up there and see them play when I was young. I was in elementary school and they would call each other cuz. And then when the game would start, they come down and throw it in the corner and somebody would catch it and go up and they say, ice cream. And the crowd would say, woo. And I said, man, I can't wait to get here to go to high school. So we carried ice cream through high school. And then when I came over to Georgetown, I brought it over to Georgetown with me. So it's just something, because now I'm at UDC. We have it at UDC. So
and just for those who are listening, ice cream was usually the free throw was at the free throw line. Am I correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
The free throw line.
Yeah. Yes.
So you mentioned you brought that over to Georgetown. How did you end up at Georgetown? And you were at Georgetown from 74 to 2004, 30 years. How did you end up there? And did you ever imagine you'd be there so long?
Well, to answer the second part of your question, no, it's no way you plan, and especially both of you guys know Coach Thompson. It was day to day, baby. You could have been here today and gone, nah, but no, I didn't. I was fortunate enough, or let's say lucky enough. Cardozo played DeMatha High School in what they used to call the M Club Classic back then in the day. And I knew we was playing DeMatha and I was going to play well because Gene knows DeMatha is the measuring stick, had always been the measuring stick against who you play with. And so I wanted to play very, very well against a kid named Billy Height, who was, touting to be All-American for them. And I did, probably my best defensive game that I had an opportunity to play there. And Coach Thompson remembered that. And so years later, when I came out of high school, I didn't know where I was going to go to school. So I wound up going into the Navy. And I played in the Navy while I was there. And for 3 years, I was in the Navy. And then coming back one evening across the quarterdeck, because I was on the ship, there was a message from a Coach Thompson. And I didn't know who it was. And I called, and actually Mary Fillon answered the phone. I didn't know it was Mary Fillon at the time. And she said, I'll put you through to Coach Thompson. He put me through, and Coach Thompson said, do you know who I am? And I said, Coach, tell you the truth, the only Coach Thompson I know is a Coach Thompson used to coach at St. Anthony's High School. And he went to either Georgetown or George Washington. And he said Georgetown. And so, you know, that's how it started as far as me being recruited there. And I had no idea that I was going to go there. I had no plans of going to Georgetown. And you guys will know this part of the story is true. So we were stationed in Charleston, South Carolina. Coach sent Bill Stein, who was an assistant, and Mary Fillon down to my ship to see me. I met them before they came over the ship at the hotel that they were staying in. When I met Miss Fillon said, how you doing? She said, can you read and write? That was the first thing she said to me. Can you read and write? And I said, well, yeah. I said, I can read and write. I went to St. Augustine, which is a local elementary school. I had been taught by the nuns, Oblate Sisters of Providence. I may not be able to do calculus, but I could read and write. And so she pulled out the Gideon book, the Gideon Bible, and she said, read something. And I read that, and then she told me to write something. So I was thinking, this is not going to work. This is just not going to work. This white lady asking me, can I read and write? It's not, but y'all know she gave me the wear and wear test. You know, where, if you're going to wear something, spell that. You're going somewhere, spell that. She gave me that test, man. And that's what she did the whole time she was there. And so it wasn't personal. It was against me. But, you know, I told Coach that I had a son, which I had a son when I was 14, and I was going to raise him. And I did raise him. And so I never lived on campus. My mom had told me early on when I got the girl pregnant, she told me she wouldn't respect me as a man if I didn't raise my son and take care of my son. So that's what the only thing was in my mind, that I was going to do that. And so going back and, you know, that's how I got there as a player. But then I came back after Coach Thompson helped me to negotiate my contract down at Gonzaga. 2 weeks later, he called me up and told me that Bill Stein had taken the job at St. Peter's, who he was an assistant, and Craig Esherick was going to take his spot. And then Eddie Myers was leaving, going into private business. And he asked me, how would you like to have that spot? And I had no idea. I had no inklings about being a basketball coach at the time. And so that's how I got over to Georgetown.
So I just want to go back just one brief.
To Mary Fillon?
No, I won't go back. Miss Fillon. You know, I was one of Miss Fillon's favorites, so I can talk.
I know you were. And everybody's pissed off about it. You know, Gene can't do any wrong.
I think it had something to do with Smiths. I think that was it.
Maybe.
But I do want to just highlight, you know, Coach Riley is a DC basketball legend. At Cardozo, not only was he obviously Defensive Player of the Year, but he was also MVP of that crew. And knowing how he played, for him to be MVP of the crew, that just tells you the impact that he had on the game. So I definitely don't want to gloss over that. And he is in Cardozo's Hall of Fame, if I didn't already say that.
Thank you, John.
And that, you know, again, that speaks volumes. So
you did your homework.
Well, yeah. Come on, now. I'm not going to show up for somebody like you. I put on the jacket though. I'm usually not wearing the jacket. We coat and tie. I tell people all the time. At Georgetown, we would coat and tie everywhere.
That's right. Anytime we're on the road.
But I do want to talk about the impact the Navy had on you. You mentioned having a child at the age of 14, and clearly the responsibility was there. I did my homework, to your point, and I listened to an interview you did with Cascade Sports. Okay. And just listening to you and and some of the commentary about your moms. What impact did the Navy have on you personally and then professionally?
Well, I think that one of the reasons for going into the Navy was I knew that I would be able to take care of my son financially. You know, leaving him and moving away from him, which I knew I probably would have to do while I was in the Navy, was going to be a burden for him and me because we're two of a kind. But I knew financially the money coming in was going to be more important. So that's why I joined up. But being in the service, when I got there, I always liked being in groups. Group dynamics always been interesting to me. You know, you get into group dynamics and you meet people, which I think helped a lot with being at Georgetown later on, and that you meet people from all over the country. Actually, the guy that's from upstate New York, I call him a country boy, but he and his wife wound up being our kids' godparents, and they're white. And so I don't know if me staying in Washington, D.C., if that would have ever happened in that situation. But going into the military, I love being in the military. I love being around guys. 6 months after I was in the service, I knew exactly what I wanted to do. I knew exactly I wanted to go to college because I wasn't sure about that before, but I knew exactly what I wanted to do. The only problem was I still had 2.5 years to do in the service, but the service was good. It gave obviously discipline, but also learn things. When you go in the military, you wind up being someone that's trained in whatever area that you're going in. You wind up being a person that's trained for that, and you're in training almost to the day that you become the trainer. And then all of a sudden, now you're training new people because military has people constantly coming and going. It's people getting out of the service. It's people coming into the service. And so whatever area that you're in, you're either training or a trainer. And that's every day you're doing that to get better at what you do. Some of the drills and things that go on, emergency alpha that they have, you just go over, it's repetition, repetition, repetition till you get it right. Those type of things are similar in sports in that you may come out and, you know, Gene, we just go through shells. Shells are like running the 2-play or running the 3-play. You do it over and over again. And in practice, you run it against the other team to get it right. You run the options and things like that. Well, that's the same thing we used to do. We just go, we have a drill and people would go through the drill and just try to cut down on time it took to get there. Readiness, because that's what we always was about, trying to be ready. So it had definitely it had an impact on my career and how I did things, because a lot of it is related to the military, what we do now.
Right. So Coach Riley, you mentioned your son. And first of all, I never knew that you didn't live on campus. So I learned something. And you often
because most people didn't.
you mentioned something that took me back, and if you don't mind sharing with the audience, I think it's a great story when you told your mom that you gotten a girl pregnant. I remember that's one of my top 10 memories of Georgetown. You mind sharing that?
Oh, you want me to share that?
Yeah.
Okay, so I get a girl pregnant. I don't tell my mom. And at those times, and to your audience, some of your audience may not really understand this, but they used to have what they call landline phones. They didn't have cell phones. And so I'm getting ready to walk out the door and the phone rings. And I go pick up the phone, and back those days, you didn't say hello, you say yellow, yellow. And so I pick up the phone, and I say yellow, and they said, may I speak to Mrs. Riley? And so I said, sure. I said, Mom, I said, phone. So she comes to the phone, and I went to my room to get my jacket or something, and I'm getting ready to walk out the door, and I heard my mother say, the girl that got pregnant, I heard my mother say her name. my heart started beating real fast because my mother didn't know. And I'm trying to figure out why she's saying her name. And my mother says, uh-huh. And she looks over me and holds a finger up like, 1 second, don't go anywhere. I opened the door and I literally had 1 foot out the door. And she held a finger up and said, don't go anywhere. And she said, she is. And I know that's what whoever's on the other side of the line is telling her. And apparently my girlfriend at the time, girl that got pregnant, she went down to get services for, pregnant, and they had to take the father's information. And so now they're calling the father or calling the house of the father to let him know. But anyway, so I'm at 1 foot out the door because I'm getting ready to run out the door. My mother's an itty bitty woman, but she carries a powerful punch. And so she comes over to me and she says, shut the door. And I'm scared to death. And I shut the door and my mother said, is that girl pregnant? And I said, I think I'm trying to get the words out, but I'm trying to say, yeah, I think so. And she says to me, she said, as she puts her hands on me, and it's loving care. And this is why I always tell people, if you get in trouble with your parents, always tell them, because at the end of the day, your mother and your father love you more than anything. And so she put her arms around me and she said, I will not respect you as a man if you don't take care of your child. And then she said, but don't ever let this happen again. And that's what she said. And I always kept that. Matter of fact, when my son, my oldest son, the boy that I had then, when he wound up getting a girl pregnant, he was in the Air Force. I told him the exact same thing. I won't respect you as a man if you don't take care of your son. And so that little small piece that stayed with me. And so my mission was, when I went into the military, was to take care of my son. My mission was, when I got an opportunity to go to Georgetown, which I never thought I would get, was to take care of my son. And I told Coach Thompson, I said, Coach, I want to come to Georgetown because I had been traveling and I was ready to come home, but I had a son and I wanted to take care of my own son. I wanted to raise him. And, what came of it was that I wound up living up by the Rib Pit off of 14th Street, and we stayed there, and he and I lived in an efficiency, and the combination of cost of living money that the school gave me and the money that the military gave me for school, we were able to get through for 4 years.
Awesome.
So Coach Riley,
Yes, sir.
You're talking about.
Uh-oh. Every show.
This is our technical difficulties you talking about, Gene.
Show, Coach Riley, Markham, and I.
Try to answer to the master or the MC rap.
Mike Riley edition.
Sorry to be modest.
This is the Mike Riley edition.
Strictly business.
This is the Mike Riley
Strictly
edition.
business. I just told my team the other day that we were going on a business trip. We were playing in the tournament, and I told them we're going on a business trip. Strictly business. That's exactly right, Mark.
You forgot about that, huh?
I did.
Strictly business.
So I did that. We got these t-shirts made. The year that album was out, that was 1989. Without a doubt, my best team.
Okay.
But do you remember what we used to do, you and I, on the way to games?
Uh-oh. Uh-oh. Mark, you gotta remind me.
Mm-hmm.
We used to trade quotes.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know how it started.
I don't know how I do remember doing that though. I do. Yeah.
I had to give you one, you had to give me one.
Yeah.
My favorite thing from you from all those years.
Uh-oh. It keep coming in and out. Wait a minute.
You have to read it.
Yeah, read it.
There you go.
To a person who, wait a minute, I can't, it's hard to see, Markham. Can you see it, Gene?
No.
Is a is a person who does not read.
Oh, it better than a person that cannot read.
There
Yes.
you go.
Yeah. No. Who's better off? A
Who's
person
better off?
that cannot read or a person that does not read? They're the same people, right?
Same people. Same people.
People will make an argument that the person that can read can start read, but that's not what we're talking about. That's not an argument. He doesn't read. That's the only part of the quote. He does not read. So if he does not read, he's the same as a person that cannot read.
Exactly.
You remember that?
That's your handwriting, isn't it?
It is. It is. I couldn't read it though because it was coming in and out. But that's amazing that you have that. Markham is a historian.
Hoarder. No, historian.
He's a hoarder.
They're both H's, but hoarder.
Yeah, I share that with people all the time. I copied it, took it out of the that used to be over the weight room when you walk in the door. The door over the weight room. Okay. Gene mentioned that you were on the first NCAA tournament team. Right. What was that like? Having not, I mean, you were there in the 70s and the early 70s. The reason John got the job was because Georgetown was horrible. So to go from being horrible to the NCAA tournament, did you have any sense of where the program was headed, or was that just like, whoa, we got it?
Well, we had a young team. I started as a freshman, so we had a freshman point guard starting, and then Dirk Jackson was on the team. He was another freshman, and then we had a couple of juniors that were starting, also guys that had been played for Coach Thompson at St. Anthony's. But you got to understand now, this is the third year that Coach Thompson's at Georgetown. His first 2 years weren't that good. And we were in the midst, and I don't remember exactly what game it was, but we were in the midst of a 6-game losing streak. And the sign came through the window. And, I'm at Georgetown, which, and Gene may be able to relate. We didn't go to Georgetown. We just didn't go over there. I mean, it wasn't like a place it wasn't a destination.
So just so we're clear, the sign you're talking about is the sign that said the nigger flop must go.
Correct. So you're at Georgetown, you don't feel comfortable. I'm in a philosophy class with it's gotta be 50 kids in there, and only 2 people that's in there that look like me is myself and Felix Yeoman, who's in my class. So, and that's makeup of the campus for the most part. The only professor that you have in there is Gwendolyn Michael Remy, who was a sociology teacher. She was the only Black professor, full-time Black professor that they had at Georgetown. So it's not a lot of people. So you don't really feel the friendly and fuzzy, being there, although people weren't mean. I'm not saying that. But now you got a sign coming through the door about your coach. Get rid of the,
Yeah.
Got it. This meeting is recorded. Okay. And so now you got a sign coming through the door that's inward flop must go. Thompson must go. And so we held a press conference the next day with Peter Green, and we had to map that out. So that season was really, really different. And we went through that 6-game losing streak, and we wound up coming out of it and going to the first NCAA tournament of Coach's career. So I'm kind of proud about the fact that we had that year, that there was so much controversy, I'll use that term, involved, and we were able still at the end to, and Coach Thompson, I mean, what kind of emotional swings was he going through during that time? He's still a young guy at this point. And here you come over to school over there to bring your basketball. And actually the 2 years, because see, success breeds more success, or it wants to. the 2 years that he had there prior to the year I came were very successful in relation to Georgetown University standards. But they still, they wanted to, because they had won some games now, they want more success. And so it was an interesting year for sure.
So to go from that sign to being the assistant coach on the team that reaches the pinnacle in '84. First, did you have, like, when you went to the NCAA tournament, did you say to yourself, oh, we got something started here. I could see us winning it all one day? Or
no, I did not. To be honest with you, Markham, when the night before we played Houston, I can imagine, because Gene was hurt. I can imagine, and that was, we were going to make sure Alvin Franklin did not have a good day. And we knew if we put Gene on him, they wasn't going to have a good day. And so Gene was hurt. Gene was hurt.
I can't remember. How did Gene get hurt?
He got hurt in the game prior, didn't he, Gene? What? Wait a minute. Hold. What? Wait a minute. That's between y'all. Gene, you talk. I'm sorry.
No. This is a question for you.
It's a trap, Coach. It's a trap. It's
a trap.
It's a trap.
No. How did
he got injured playing?
He got injured playing?
Yeah, he got injured playing. I'm gonna leave it like that. How about that?
I heard he was all by himself. It was, today in the NBA they have what they call what do they call it? Open court foul. Whatever.
I don't know about that. Gene got hurt playing.
If somebody is in front of the other 9 people on the court and they fouling from behind, the other team gets the ball. And I heard Gene Smith went up, and instead of dunking the ball with 2 hands,
see, Coach, what's he talking about, Coach?
He finger rolled and came down.
Must be something in Memphis, ankle. That water that they must be sending it to him in California or something.
So go ahead.
I don't know, but
preliminary. Sometimes I hope he don't show up. This is why.
The night before, though, we played that game, I was just commenting. I was calling home, and I was commenting that I could see us, based on the scouting report, I could see us beating Houston. I just couldn't imagine us winning the national championship. Not because George, you know what I mean? I know it doesn't make sense, because if we beat Houston, you're going to win the national championship. It's just hard to conceive that little school Georgetown that sit there off the river, they were going to win the national championship, but they did, and almost repeated. So, but we all know the reason why that is.
Coach, I want to go back to I think it might have been your junior year, or it might when that class comes in of John Doran, Lonnie,
Bebe now, yeah.
What was that like? Because I kind of equated to that class that came in with, for me, Patrick, Billy, Anthony Jones, like that level coming in. Was it like that, or? Well,
Bebe and Big Sky, Craig Shelton, wound up taking it, along with Steve Martin, taking the team, I think, a little bit to a different level. Because that's when they started really playing in the Big East. That's when, and that actually, I should say the next level really was, because we went to the NIT for 2 years. We went to the NIT for 2 years. And then that following year really was when Sleepy Floyd came. And when Sleepy came, that's when we beat Maryland. And, it kind of took off from there. And then, we started getting, the Anthony Jones and, Billy Martins, Gene Smiths. We started getting those guys, which wound up make up with the team. And so when Gene and Freddie were older and we had these young guys, we had people that wasn't afraid to talk. That's why I thought Gene and Freddie, the thing that they did as captains, they weren't afraid to voice their opinion about something. And because we had that leadership, it helped with the team. And yes, Markham, Gene did get hurt playing.
In case you didn't hear him, Mark, I got hurt playing. I didn't get hurt making Gatorade. I got hurt playing.
Hey.
Mm.
To be fair, man, I don't know if you remember this, Coach Riley. Gene doesn't know this, so since he's in his feelings, I'll share this. We were in New Jersey, and we're practicing at the Nets facility, and Coach blew the whistle, and they threw the balls, and I'm running trying to pick them up because you know when those balls start coming in, you got to grab them real fast.
Right.
And I sprained my ankle.
Oh,
Running at that,
is that right?
I tripped over a line. That's the way that and I remember like I was mad, like I was mad at the way it happened.
Okay.
And everybody like gave me the blues like for the rest of the year.
Okay.
Hey Stans, watch out for that line, like it's jumping up, you know.
Some reason, Mark, I think I remember that a little bit because I think I remember watch out for the line.
Yeah, that was all year long.
But they must have threw it to your right hand, you being a softball.
Look at that.
Gene, you could use that.
You're not the only one that got a memory. Hey, Coach, I do want to, again, this is about celebrating you in a way that I know makes you uncomfortable because you're not really built that way. But we definitely want to give you your flowers. I say that to say I wanted to mention the Olympic experience that you went through. You're also a bronze medal recipient. Having served for your country in the Navy, and then on that level of as an athlete, as a coach, how did that feel for you? Is that something you thought about, or was it just
Well, serving, first of all, serving in the military, and I think I may have mentioned, but I like being around a group of guys that's going for something. And we had in the military, we had a lot of competition. It's nothing like, and I don't know if I can relate this to people that haven't, but we had boot camp in Great Lake, Illinois, and you're marching with your company. And every time you go through exercises, you would go underneath, I think it's 91, the freeway there, underneath there's a tunnel to go to the other side. And every time you go under, you would sing Anchors Away. If it was a company coming the other way, they would be singing, you'd be singing, and you would sing. And it's nothing like that when you're marching and you go through underneath that tunnel and you start singing, Anchors Away, my boy. And you going through there and you come up through that tunnel and you just singing. And then on parade day, Gene and Markham, they have, you bring out all your flags, shine up your shoes, put on your pretty whites, and you got all your flags of all the competition that you've won. And we had a great company. We had a lot of flags, and we start marching. And when they would hit it and get to, and you would say, eyes right, and you turn, and then you say, counter, march, and you couple them. It's unbelievable. And I love that stuff. And so I think just using comparison, the Olympics, when they had open ceremony and they come and it's not precision, but it's people cheering and everything. And you got all these athletes that we had. You get to meet these people because, you see them. I didn't know J.R. Smith. I didn't know David Robinson or Willie Anderson or Hershey Hawkins, Bimbo Coles. The only person I knew on the Olympic team really was Charles Smith. And
Charles Smith.
Yeah, Charles Smith was on there, but I knew our Charles Smith, and you're right about that, Markham. But I didn't know these guys, but to get to know them, was interesting because again, you're dealing with group dynamics. You're trying to teach them some of the things that you're trying to get them to learn. And you know, the military is a lot like that. You know, you either a trainer or a trainee. You know, you're trying to learn something or you're trying to teach somebody something. And basketball is similar to that. You know, you're always trying to teach something. And as I mentioned, when Gene and them got older, they had to give direction, as opposed when Gene came as a freshman, he was taking direction. And so, and Freddie was the same way. And so when they get older, if you have great leadership, that's a big part of the battle because you're trying to get guys to believe. And so when you're in the locker room, you need the people in the locker room that's having a positive voice, or they're carrying the same voice that they hear from the coaches a lot of times. And if you don't have that, then you have, you know, a lot of infighting within the locker room. But if you have that, and that's what I liked about the military, everybody was going, I think, after the same thing. And I think that, you know, you're in a foreign country when you're in the service. And you go somewhere, well, that was the same thing as the Olympics. We were in a foreign country and we were trying to, you know, accomplish something. And we all knew though, we had college players playing against professional players. You know, the Russian team had, I think, 3 professional players. Yugoslavian team who won it, I think had, who they had Divac, Petrovic, and Marchalunas. They had 3 pros on their team. So we had
Yugoslavia won that? I thought Russia won.
Russia won that. Russia won that. I'm sorry. We thought Yugoslavia was going to win. We thought they had a better team with Petrovic and them, but Russia won because Russia beat us to knock us out, and that's when we played for the bronze. But you know, Coach Thompson would say later, he was disappointed, but he had to take a shot. He knew he was at a disadvantage playing college players against professional teams. But as he said, when was a black man, they were going to ever ask a black man to coach the Olympic team? When was he going to get the shot? So he took a shot even with the disadvantage, you know, and I respected him for that because we knew. Go ahead.
What was your most, since we're talking about the Olympics, what was your most prominent memory about the entire Olympics experience? What was your most prominent memory?
My most prominent memory of the whole Olympic experience was going around and seeing different athletes, I guess. You know, I thought it was interesting. I think, and I didn't look this up, but I think Dan Marley, who was a country boy, nicest guy you ever want to meet, I think he led the team in scoring. That was both interesting, but it was also an issue because we had so many other people that could score that we should have. We just couldn't, for some reason, we didn't shoot well, the Olympics. And I'm talking about for the whole Olympics. I'm not talking about like a game, we didn't shoot well to Russia. I thought for the whole Olympics, we didn't shoot well. We thought Hershey Hawkins and, you know, some of the other guys, Bimbo Coles, would shoot the ball much better than what they did. I haven't looked at the stats because it was just a painful moment to go back. But most memorable moment, I think, probably was just going around, walking around and seeing all the different athletes. I didn't know a lot of them, but some of them were very prominent because they were getting, people were getting their autographs, you know, a lot of times. And so I think that's probably the thing that sticks out on my mind.
So you just mentioned the word painful. Just curious, not winning the gold or not winning in 1985. What would you say was more painful?
That's not close. Come on, Mark. That's not even close. That's not even close. I still have nightmares about Villanova. You know, I mean, I just, if Georgetown getting ready to play Villanova, they'll bring that up and I just shake my head, you know, like, come on, y'all, let's move on. You know, they shot 70% in the second half. Dwayne McClain, what's the word? Presley,
Pinckney.
I mean, it just, they were throwing up. Presley came through one time and Patrick tried to block it on one side of the basket. He
You
went
know,
under and threw it up backwards on the other side, and the ball hit the backboard and went in. I said, man, this is gonna be.
Coach, speaking to that, we had an episode where we brought in Chuck Everson, the backup center.
Right.
And I don't think until that time, and I didn't play on the 85 team, but of course, all of us was playing on the 85 team.
Right.
I think until he came on, I finally reconciled my feelings about it. Because it was like, it was trauma. Coach, you mentioned something about locker room, and I wanted to share a story because my memory is not nearly as good as yours or Markham. And the story I wanted to relate to you, and I don't know if you remember this, we were getting ready to play, we were out west, and this is actually, you know what? I think we were out west, and I was going around the locker room. A man got to do what a man got to do. Do you remember that?
No.
Because the Ed Spriggs says to me, "Yo, Rabbit, I think we got the message." I went back to the inner high beating on the lockers. So
Right.
I might be predating you. I might be, but that's the when you mentioned locker room, that jumped into my head.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I got checked by Ed Spriggs. I got body checked.
Okay. Oh, okay. Okay. And Ed will do that.
We'll do that. We'll do that. Yeah.
Yes.
So I might be a little mixed up on my years, but you
Okay.
got that in my memory.
No, you got to have good locker room voice in the locker room.
Yes.
It's no
So,
question.
speaking of locker room, our show is called Hoya Locker Room. And we have Georgetown guys telling their stories. What do you think Big John would think of Hoya Locker Room?
That's a good one.
Well, after he would call y'all some names that I can't say on the air right now. That
do you say those?
We've said them.
Do you talk to your team that way, Coach?
After he called y'all some of them names that he used to call y'all back in the day, I think he would honestly say that he's very proud of you guys, because you have to be able to put yourself in, and by doing this, you put yourself on the line. When you ask somebody, and like y'all said, I was Cascade, I've done some of these things, and when you do them, sometimes you're really putting yourself out because you never know when you're gonna say something dumb. I remember years ago, they asked me, I wasn't working at Georgetown, and they asked me to. This was right after I had graduated, and they asked me to go on halftime at a radio show that they had at Rich Shabakin. And I said, "Oh, okay, yeah." And halftime was like gonna be in about 4 minutes game time. And I go over to the radio, and Rich puts me on headphones, and Rich says, "We're at halftime, and so-and-so, 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 and the Hoyas up there." And they say, "We got Mike Riley here." And he turned to me, he never asked the question. And so I said, well, we got a lot of people. And so I was working at Gonzaga at the time. And one of the parents told one of my kids, because I was coaching JV, told me I didn't sound like I had gone to Georgetown. And I said, "Dang, well," so you put yourself out there. So I think you guys put yourself out there. And I think it opens the line, or keeps the line of communications open with, like you said, Villanova, Chuck Everson you had here, or whoever else you want to interview, you bring that in. I think Butch McAdams, who is the godfather of my oldest son, I think you had him on one of your shows, which I think that he knows more about sports in DC than anybody. He follows it. But I think you keep the line of communications open, and it winds up giving people the opportunity, like you're doing for me. It gives an opportunity to maybe tell a little bit of their story, which I think is great. So I think at the end, Coach Thompson would have a very positive note for both of you guys.
I just want to follow that, Coach, and just says it means a lot for you to say that. I mean, it means a lot to Markham and I, because this thing started when Patrick got the job, and obviously the pandemic is in beginning to be in full throttle. And my thought was, what can we do?
Mhm.
Our thought was, what can we do to help the Jamaican? We have a voice.
Mhm.
One thing Coach did a really good job of was controlling our narrative. Whether you liked it or not,
Mhm.
he controlled that narrative. And we just thought, well, here's a guy who's one of ours, and we want to help, control that narrative, not in any way other than support.
Mhm.
So that was
If you don't have the narrative, excuse me cutting you off, but if you don't have the narrative, somebody else will.
Correct.
And that's all you're saying.
Correct. So that was the initial thrust. And then, rest in peace, Coach passed away, and then it just took on a whole new meaning.
Okay.
So that was kind of where we went with that.
Right.
We're coming up on an hour, Coach, and we have a special thing we've been doing this special guest thing. It's kind of Marcum's idea.
This is my man here. This is my man.
So, we know you are always prepared. So if this don't shock you, I mean, this is definitely.
Well, see, the story is told. Craig had an option. He had an option to keep me or let me move along, say we move in another direction. He decided to keep me. And that was, for me, it was a good thing.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So we have Craig Esherick popping in. Craig, can you hear us?
I can hear you well. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Good.
So we've been
What's up, Craig?
Hello, Mr. Riley. Hello, Mr. Smith.
Yes, sir. Hello, Coach. So we kind of wanted to bring you two back together. We've been giving Coach Riley his flowers, Coach Esherick, and he's been stepping all over him and trying to take a charge. So we wanted to bring you aboard to kind of share some thoughts and some experiences that you had with Coach Riley. And thank you very much for jumping in.
No, I appreciate it. I hate to say I'm joining in my car on the way home from I was at a conference in Virginia Beach. I wish I could have been on a
conference
Zoom,
in Virginia Beach.
I apologize.
All right.
So, Coach Craig, this is Markham Stansbury.
Martin?
What? Markham.
Markham Stansbury. Oh my God.
See, we want to be funny. What would you say is your number one memory of Mike Riley?
I have too many memories of Mike Riley to tell you. I have just one memory. I'd say it's my memory of Mike Riley is that he's a great friend, and he's been a great friend since I met him in 1974. I think was our freshman year together when we came in, and that relationship changed from a teammate to a fellow coach to a co-worker, and so that's, I guess, the memory is a lot of memories combined, and a great friendship and a great working relationship together.
Craig, the basketball memory I have of you is hitting that shot against GW, and I jumped on you.
Yeah, you jumped on me, and then Craig Shelton jumped on
Big
top
Sky.
of me from
That's
the other
right,
side.
Big Sky. You was carrying the
I
load.
must have been a lot stronger than I thought, but I saw the replay, and I don't remember any of it. I don't remember making the shot, but no, I when I saw that picture, I said, "This is crazy."
Yeah,
Coach Esherick, I have a question for you.
Yes, Clifton.
That's right. That's exactly right.
So you and Coach Riley come in at the same time. Were either of you part of the recruiting pitch? And I'm saying that obviously very cavalier. in terms of how Big John asked, you both if you were interested in being an assistant coach?
Well,
Were you?
correct.
Yeah, Craig. Did he mention to you that Coach Riley was coming aboard as well?
No, I didn't know that Mike was coming on. I took the job, Gene, when I was in my third year of law school, and Bill Stein was getting ready to become athletic director at St. Peter's College. And Coach Thompson asked me, did I want to quit law school in the middle of the fall, my last year of law school, and start coaching, because Coach Stein wanted to become an AD, was sick of all the traveling, the recruiting. And I think his wife was probably a little sick of it too. And so I told him, I said, look, I'm honored that you've offered me the job. But I said, I've done too much work at the law school to just quit in the middle of my third year. So if you don't mind, I accept, but I have to finish school and also take the bar exam, which meant I wasn't going to be able to start till the first week in August. And so he thought about it, and he got back to me a couple days later after talking to Bill Stein, and told me that, yes, we'll do that. And I don't remember, I honestly don't remember when I found out that Mike was going to be working there too. I was pretty happy to hear it, but I don't remember during that time period when I found out Mike was going to work there.
Do you remember if he jumped on your back again?
No, I was happy.
So,
I hope he was happy that I was going to be with him.
hey, Gene, Markham. So Craig is a grad assistant, and we're playing Maryland at the Armory. And I catch up with Craig, and I said, Craig, what did it look like for us today? And Craig turns and said, because Big Sky had been hurt, he said, if Big Sky plays, we'll kick their ass. I said, that's what I'm talking about. That's what I'm talking about. So, but Craig was in law school, and that's when I told you Coach Thompson called me over, and he told me Craig was going to take Bill Stein spot. And I'm still, he said, Eddie Myers is going into private business. I'm still I don't know nothing. I'm not thinking anything. He helped me to get down to Gonzaga. Gonzaga is a forever job. And I said, okay, I'm down to Gonzaga. And then he said, what would you think if I asked you to come over and take this? Coach, you just helped me get it. He said, don't worry about that. We'll take care of that. So that's what we did.
We have a question kind of for both of you. And this is the infamous Hoya Paranoia. And obviously you two were both in the thick of that. When did you first, or when did that Hoya Paranoia thing start? Was that something that you think was created while you were there, or did it just morph much later? If you both can speak to that, I'd be interested to hear that.
Craig, you want me to put my 2 cents in?
Well, I'll say, I think part of it was when Patrick Ewing was a freshman, and he had half of the press across the country wanted to interview him. And we had a rule that predated Patrick that freshmen didn't talk to the press. And I think it started, if I remember correctly, from all the times that our sports information director had to tell the media that Patrick wasn't going to be doing interviews. And so I think some of it came from that. But go ahead, Mike.
Well, I think you 100% right, Craig. But I also think that it also was a part of when the team stayed so far away from the game site, and they didn't want to be close. And so people were trying to find out where the hotel was. And sometimes coach stayed in another state. And so that's where I think that game came from, because the Hoyas were paranoid.
And Mike, I know Gene didn't like staying far away from the action. Gene liked being close to the action. Isn't that right, Clifton?
Well,
we won't go there, Craig.
well, you know what, Coach? Both coaches, Coach Esherick, we'd love to invite you back at a future date. We can get into that because we know the chances of that are slim. Because you're a busy guy, but gentlemen, we are over an hour. We try to make it a rule of thumb, not to keep people longer than what's necessary. And because God forbid Markham trips over a line or something, right?
Yeah, exactly.
But we cannot express enough how much we appreciate you both stopping through Hoya Locker Room. You know, from the bottom of my heart, both of you guys mean a lot to me. You know, Coach Riley, as I stated earlier, you know, you obviously were the standard bearer in terms of a defensive guard. Coach Thompson is on record as saying that you're the best ever in terms of defense.
Put Mike Riley's name at the top, skip 3 spaces, and go to number 2.
That was Coach Thompson when he was emotional.
So
Gene, you know that you were the catalyst for the team for so many years and helped us even when you didn't play in the championship game. You was a part of it. And so I think that, you know, you've done a great job throughout the years, but I'm proud of both of you guys and what you're doing with this locker room. You know, it says a lot about you guys.
So, Coach Riley.
Yes.
When we first started this, we used to ask guys their all-time starting 5 for Georgetown. That has morphed now.
I shake my head, Coach. When he goes into this, I just start shaking my head.
So I want your all-time starting 5 by position, but then I want you to fill out the roster with 7 through 12. You're making a team.
Mark.
Making a team.
Coach Esherick, if you want to hang up, I would understand.
Markham, you know what? I tell you what I would do. I would put Patrick Ewing, and then after that, you can come up with your list. I'll put Patrick Ewing in there against anybody, and then you can come up with a list. I may even go to the other end of the spectrum and put Allen Iverson there, and then you can put in anybody you want to in between there.
Little sisters of the poor.
So you got Patrick, AI, and any other 10 guys. That's your answer.
Yeah, I mean, you know, pick guys that contributed and played. I mean, you don't have to pick just guys that went to the pros, but
no, but that's why we started doing the team thing, because
so that's why you started doing the team thing.
Because honestly, I'll be honest, I'll be truthful with you, Coach Riley. I felt like Gene was important, right? And we know he's not going to be on the top 5 if he can't make a layup in the national championship game. So I wanted somebody.
Why you going there, Markham?
I wanted somebody to get, because Gene he's not going to make the top 5, but 95% of the people got him on the top 12. And I wanted to give my boy some love.
Because he's a good team player.
Yeah, you need that guy that can get in people's heads and.
Well, you need that guy that the other team got somebody on their team that can score, that you just turn to and say, look, put the dog on him, and the dog will lock him down. That's what you're doing. So, yeah, Gene, I could see Gene landing on the top 12.
So since you don't want to fill out the players,
I don't.
What I will ask you.
I told you one end of the spectrum and the other. And then the rest of them you can come up with.
You gave me a 1 and you gave me a 5. And
that's right.
Me and my man David Green get into this all the time. So who's for your all-time team? Who's gonna be the manager making the Gatorade for that team?
Well, Markham, I'm on the locker room today. What are you talking about? I'm on the locker room today. Now I may be on some other show in a week or two. But right now I'm on the locker room today. It's no question. 5-time, or what is it, Gene? I'm sorry.
Three.
Three. I'm sorry. 3-time player of the year. I mean, manager of the year. Ain't no question. I mean, I don't even think we have a manager that won it 3 times.
We don't.
Do you remember having a manager that we won 3 times?
Coach,
Craig did hang up. Craig did hang up.
He probably on mute or something. Well,
So-
thank you very much for coming on, Coach Riley.
No problem.
Like I said, those quotes and going back, and another one that stood out for me, closing. You gave me a quote once that said, if there are 2 business partners who have the same opinion, you don't need one of them.
One of them. Right.
Because
Right.
all you're
That's
doing
like
is
having a
splitting the
yes
money.
man. It's like having a yes man. You hire a coach and he's a yes man. That was the first thing Coach Thompson told me. He said, I don't want any yes men working for me. I said, oh, okay. I can voice my opinion. But it makes sense. It makes sense.
Well, since you say that, you make me think of one other thing.
Go ahead.
You've been assistant at Georgetown, assistant on Olympics. Now you're head coach at UDC. What are the differences and similarities in those jobs?
Well,
Start with the
let's go.
differences first.
The differences? Well, the
Yeah.
difference is that an assistant coach makes a suggestion. A head coach has to make a decision. And, guys in the business always talk about that seat that you move to is much further than what you think it is. Because, I'm passionate about what I do, but I'm also sentimental in the sense that, guys come in and you get guys that got all kind of things going on. And or you're recruiting a guy. You got to tell a guy, maybe you won't take him. Guy come over here and say, Coach, I can play, send his video over. You're trying to make a decision. You have 3 guys that you're trying to play one position, and you have to tell 2 of them that you're not going to take them. Well, that's not an easy thing sometimes, because sometimes that kid only has one place to go. And that would be here at the University of the District of Columbia. If you're playing at a Georgetown level and you're able to go to Georgetown, then there's probably several other schools that you have a chance to go to. But if you're playing at UDC level, Division II, it may not be a lot of schools you can go to. And so you tell that kid, well, I'm gonna take some other kid. And then you see that kid, a year later, and he's still looking for opportunity to go places. And you can't just say, well, I'm gonna take him because of the fact that he can't find a place. You gotta make your team better. And if he helps your team, you will. So it's a tough responsibility being a head coach. Everything comes to you, no matter what it is. Being an assistant, it's not an easy job, but it's much easier than being a head coach, because you go around and you tell, you talk to the players and you say, well, this is where it is. And, they know you're not making a decision. It's the head coach that's making a decision. And so you have to be able to make tough decisions relative to, kids not going to, kids not going to class and doing schoolwork. You got to get rid of them. So I've already told you 4 times, you got to do your work, and you still getting deep. You got to go. You go somewhere else where people will permit you to be whoever you want to be, not who we want you to be. And so, the differences are those, but the similarities are the fact that, both the head coach and the assistant coach trying to do the same thing. We're trying to graduate kids. We're trying to recruit good kids. We're trying to improve in practice. We're trying to improve in the game, and so we sit in, maybe an office, and we put together a game plan, and we may go back and forth about what exactly and how we should go about this game plan. But when we walk out of the office, we all have to be on the same page. And so, and that's what we did at Georgetown. And all this that I do, I didn't play for 2 coaches. These kids nowadays are getting the transfer portal like nothing. Every year they get in the transfer portal, even if they don't transfer. They say, well, I'm going to transfer portal. And they play sometimes before they get to you at the college level. They've played sometimes at 3 different high schools. maybe
Right.
one community college or junior college. They've been all these different schools trying to find the perfect situation. And so you're trying to help them to find and be in these situations that will help these. But, the differences, the similarities are basically we're on the same page trying to do the same thing for the team. And that's at the end of the day, win and graduate kids, or graduate kids and win. I don't think one goes before the other. I just think that, from a basketball season wise, it's win and then graduate. And we're trying to do both of them.
Coach,
Well, you said, I want to say something real quick.
Mhm.
What you just said, I think speaks to you as a man. I think it's a great thing. I have heard for years the other side of what you just said, meaning a player saying, well, it's hard for me to say I'm going to Georgetown, but I got to tell Maryland and Duke, no, that's hard. I've never heard a coach say, well, I have one slot and I got to tell two other guys no. And I think that speaks volumes about you. And if UDC has a great guy.
Well, I appreciate you saying that, Markham. But, again, I go back to the fact that some kids that we recruit sometimes don't have 5-6 options.
Right.
And so it's a different situation, especially if the coach tell you that, the mom is sick. The boy got a little sister that's at home and he's trying to work and do a little bit, bring a little bit, it's a lot of stories. You can't really get caught up in those stories, but I hear those stories and I know those stories, and those stories are real. And if you come from the neighborhood, like a lot of these kids, you had a story too. I mean, everybody had a story, meaning I was talking about myself. I had a story too. And Coach Thompson had to accept me with my son and that I had a son. He could easily say, well, if you think, you being with your son is more important than going to college to Georgetown, then, you need to go. Because as Gene pointed out, we're not talking about I wasn't like the second or third scorer in the league or something. I didn't score a lot of points. I was just playing defense. And so and then my size, diminutive size, you're assuming that you're going to get a good player to play in college. He didn't know that. He didn't know that I was going to be able to recreate some of the things I did in high school and college. So I think he was somewhat taking a chance. And so I appreciate the fact that when I told him I had a son, he got right on board with it. He said, well, you don't have to live on campus and we'll give you money. I didn't even know they could give me. I thought the money that I was going to get was scholarship to pay for my tuition. And the money I was going to get was going to be from the military. But when he told me, I heard the term cost of living. I didn't know what that meant, but I said, you mean I'm gonna get some money? He said, yeah. I said, oh, okay. You're talking my language now. So it worked out from that standpoint. And I just think that I'm forever thankful to Coach Thompson, of course, Mary Finland, and the professors at Georgetown for, helping me get through to be able to get to that point, living off campus, traveling back and forth, trying to find a place for my son to stay. My freshman year was crazy. I can remember, because you in an English class, the first time I gave my professor English paper that I had done on the Rocking Horse Winter, he wrote me, we had to write what the author was saying. I wrote it up, man. I had more red on my paper. I said, oh, this is not gonna work. I'm thinking this is not gonna work, but I, the more you sat down with the professors and you figured out what exactly they were trying to do, it was easier to do. By the time I was a, second semester sophomore, I think I knew. I said, oh, I can graduate from here. I had questions my freshman year because the classes were just tough. I said, oh, and they told me the classes get tougher, but Gene, did y'all have Miss Velez?
No, we didn't.
Didn't have Miss Velez?
I remember.
Okay.
I remember.
You remember
I
her?
remember.
So when we got people like Miss, when we got people like Miss Velez, I mean, it was, she started sitting with kids and tutoring them and things like that. She was godsend. So.
Well, you mentioned the professors, and earlier you mentioned Professor Gwen Michael, and I just want to give her a shout out because I don't know if you know this, but the John Carroll Awards are in Nashville this year.
I did know
and
that.
She is being honored.
Right. I did know that. Yeah, I did know that. I read that they sent something out on it, and I received it. Yeah. But let me tell you about her real quick. She is a tough old broad. Now, I shouldn't say old, but she was a tough broad when you were in school. She wasn't giving nobody of color any break or any sympathy. Either do your work, get you on out of here. I mean, that's just the way she was, and God bless her. She was a fair teacher. I'm not saying she wasn't fair, but she wasn't like, oh, I'm glad to have, but she, when I got to talk to her, she was nurturing, you got to do, I mean, we had conversations. I saw her I was still in school. I saw her at the Schomburg Library up in New York. And she
Arthur Schomburg.
Huh?
I said Arthur Schomburg.
Arthur Schomburg. I saw her at the Arthur Schomburg Library, and she asked me why was I up at the Arturo Schomburg Library, and I told her that was my grandfather, and so she said, "Wow!" And so she
what?
Yeah.
Man, hold up! I didn't know that.
Yeah, Mark, I thought you did know that.
No. Oh man, hold up.
Yeah. I'm sorry. I thought that's why you said Arturo Schomburg is my grandfather. So, but
what?
Yeah.
Oh man.
We gotta go, Mark. We're way over an hour.
You gotta come back.
Bring it back.
No.
I mentioned Schomburg in one of my poems. Oh wow.
Yeah, Arturo Schomburg is my father's father. My father is a junior. His name was Arturo Schomburg, and during the Depression, a guy fell out in the subway, and he took his identity because they used to give out numbers, and you was gonna get a job based on that number. My father took his identity, and that guy's name was Riley. And so we don't have a lot of Rileys in our family. Up in New York, we have all Schomburgs.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. I'm sorry. I thought you knew that, Mark.
Amazing.
I thought you knew
I
that.
did not know. How would I know that?
I thought we may have talked. You got quotes that so I mean, I'm thinking,
I'm over here digging in crates. We over here digging in crates. Yeah.
Right. That's what I thought, so yeah, but that's part of the family legacy. I got family in Puerto Rico, and I got family in New York, most of them in New York.
Wow. So I wanted to jump in, but I got mesmerized by the conversation. But what I would like to say, again, Coach, thank you so much.
Okay.
But Markham mentioned your character. This speaks to your character, and the fact that you were not heavily recruited.
No.
The fact that you were a parent. And Georgetown was daunting.
It was.
And you dove right in. That speaks to, not only did you dive right in, but you were successful. Successful to the tune of a 30-year career.
Right.
And that just speaks volumes about you as a man. And just on that note, fam, thank you so much, man, for coming through. And you mean a lot to us. You mean a lot.
Thank you both. Thank you both.
Yes.
Take care, Markham.
All right. Take care, Coach Riley.
All right. Love you both.
Right, fam.
Love you too.
All right. See you.